I want you to start this session by picturing something uh, incredibly mundane. Just for a second, forget outer space.
Okay.
Imagine you're standing in your kitchen. You pick up a dinner plate, just the standard round one. Now, hold it up and look at the shadow it casts on the wall.
Right.
If you hold that plate perfectly flat, head on to the light, the shadow is a perfect circle. No tricks there.
Simple geometry. A flat, round object casts a circular shadow.
Exactly. But now imagine you tilt that plate. You angle it away from the wall, turning it into the depth of the room. What happens to that shadow?
It gets squashed. It turns into an oval.
It turns into an oval because you've changed the perspective.
You're seeing a projection that reveals its orientation in three-dimensional space.
Correct?
The shadow is telling you the object isn't just flat against the wall, it has depth.
Okay, so keep that squashed oval in your mind. Because today we are not talking about dinnerware. We're talking about the supermassive black hole M87.
And this is where things get really interesting.
Because here's the thing that keeps me up at night. According to our standard laws of physics, the shadow of that black hole, it should be a perfect circle.
It should be.
But the research we're diving into today suggests we might actually be seeing a tilt.
And this is where the stakes get, well, incredibly high. Because if that black hole shadow is lopsided, if it's squashed like that tilted plate.
It implies that the plate of our entire universe is tilted.
Tilted into a higher dimension.
Which means we are not just looking at a black hole. We might be looking at the shadow of the fourth dimension.
Or, as we're about to find out, maybe the 12th dimension. It sounds like pure science fiction, I know.
It really goes.
But we're looking at a rigorous, highly mathematical framework. It's called SGQM.
Supersymmetric geometric quantum mechanics. This all comes from the work of Aetheron Model. And our goal today is to really get our heads around his Aetheron Model.
It's a massive shift in perspective.
We're going to see how this framework reinterprets gravity, black holes, even the vacuum of space, not as 4D physics, but as a 12-dimensional reality.
We're moving from space as an empty container, a void where things happen,
Right.
to viewing space itself as a living geometric structure.
I have to admit, when I first read Living Geometric Structure, I thought, okay, we're getting into metaphysics, but the math here is serious. So before we get to the solution, we have to understand the problem.
The crisis of divergence.
Why do we even need a 12-dimensional model? What is so broken about our current physics?
Well, that crisis of divergence, it's a polite way of saying the math explodes.
Explodes?
Yeah. See, general relativity, Einstein's masterpiece, it's brilliant for describing gravity in our solar system. Planets, orbits, light bending.
Sure.
But if you take those same equations and push them to the absolute limit, like the center of a black hole, they break completely. They predict a singularity.
We hear that word a lot. A singularity is a point of infinite density and zero volume, right?
Correct. And infinite is a massive red flag in physics. It usually means your theory has stopped describing reality.
How can you have all that mass crushed into literally zero space? It doesn't make sense.
It's logical nonsense. SGQM argues that these singularities aren't real, they're artifacts.
Artifacts of what? Of our math being bad?
In a way, it's an artifact of trying to describe a complex, multidimensional object using only 4 dimensions.
Okay, give me an analogy.
Imagine you have a hypercube, a 4-dimensional box, and you try to draw it on a flat sheet of paper.
Right, I've seen those drawings. Lines have to cross and overlap to show the depth.
Exactly. Now, if you were a little 2D creature living on that paper, you'd look at the spot where all the lines cross and say, look, an infinite density of lines right here. But it's not infinite.
It's just a bad drawing of a higher dimensional shape.
Precisely. So the singularity, this point of infinite gravity, is just us hitting the limits of our 4D paper. And this is where Buscemi introduces the replacement for that empty paper, the Aetheron.
The Aetheron. It sounds almost, I don't know, Victorian, like the old luminiferous ether.
Very different. This is purely geometric. In this model, the vacuum of space, it isn't empty. It's defined as a living geometric field. Technically, it's a 12-dimensional rotational manifold.
Okay, you can't just drop 12-dimensional rotational manifold on us. We need to visualize that.
Fair enough. Think of standard physics like a stage. The stage is passive. It just sits there. The actors, particles, planets, they move around on it. The Aetheron model says, no, the stage itself is moving. Space-time is the motion.
The source material used this analogy of a tensioned cable or a ringing bell, that the vacuum has structure.
Yes. If space is truly empty, it can't ring. It can't carry a vibration. But if space is a lattice, like a complex spiderweb made of geometry, then it can vibrate. It can carry tension.
So we're floating in this geometric lattice that's constantly rotating.
Exactly. Specifically, it follows a symmetry group called spin 12.
Which basically means it spins in 12 different ways.
Essentially, yes. It has 12 axes of rotation. And everything we see, matter, light, gravity, is just a result of how that scaffolding twists and turns.
This leads us right to the part of the theory I found most helpful for visualizing this, the Pythagorean shadow.
A beautiful simplification.
We all know Pythagoras, A dollars plus B2 equals C22, but Buscemi uses this to explain what mass and energy actually are.
Right, this is the Aetheron theorem. The equation is alpha 2 plus erot 2.
Okay, let's translate that from algebra to English.
Picture a simple right triangle, one with a 90-degree corner just rotating in the dark.
Got it.
The hypotenuse, that long diagonal side, that represents alpha. Think of it as the real object in 12 dimensions, the total Aetheron synchronization factor.
Okay, the diagonal's the real thing. What are the other two sides?
The other two legs are the projections. They're what we see from our limited perspective. One leg, let's call it aeromio, represents mass.
So, stuff. Electrons, protons, what the theory calls the fermionic projection.
Exactly. Fermions are the building blocks of matter. So one leg of the triangle is stuff. The other leg, aerorot, represents rotational energy. This is the bosonic projection.
Which are force carriers, like photons of light. So usually we think of matter like a rock and energy like a beam of light. They feel totally different. But this triangle suggests they're just sides of the same shape.
That is the key insight. Mass and energy aren't separate things. They are orthogonal at 90-degree angles to each other, projections of the same rotating 12D object.
So if I look at this object from one angle, I see a particle, I see mass. If I look from another angle, I see a force, energy.
Yes. Think of a coin spinning on a table. From the side, it looks like a flat line. From above, it's a circle. Same coin, different projection. An electron and a photon are just the same geometry viewed from different orientations.
That actually solves that whole Eames-Yafo thing, right? How mass turns into energy.
It reframes it completely. In standard physics, it's a profound transformation. In SGQM, it's just a rotation.
You're just pivoting the triangle.
You decrease the mass leg and increase the energy leg. The hypotenuse, the reality of the object, stays the same. You've just changed the angle you're viewing it from.
That is a wild concept. Okay, so holding that thought that everything is just rotating geometry,
Right.
let's go back to our lopsided black hole.
Right.
If there's no singularity, if the math doesn't break, what is actually happening down there?
This is where we get to topological inversion.
Oh, sounds like a roller coaster maneuver.
It's closer to turning a sock inside out. Instead of collapsing to a single point, the geometry of the black hole folds into the higher dimensions. It's a smooth transition.
So matter falls in, but it doesn't get crushed into nothing.
No. The source describes it as resonance stacking. The matter gets re-encoded into higher dimensional rotational states.
So black hole isn't a drain, it's more like a hard drive.
A rotational phase reservoir, that's the term.
Right.
It stores the spin and the information of everything that falls in.
And this brings us back to that lopsided shadow of M87, the squashed plate.
Exactly. If the black hole were just a hole in 4D space, the shadow is a circle. But if it's actually this complex 12-dimensional spinning top that has folded in on itself,
It creates distortion.
we're seeing the tilt caused by that dimensional folding. The shadow is squashed because the plate of the black hole is angled into dimensions we can't normally see.
So that fuzzy orange donut from the Event Horizon Telescope, that might actually be our first photographic evidence of extra dimensions.
That is the implication. We are seeing the shadow of the Aetheron lattice itself twisting under extreme load.
Speaking of twisting, we have to talk about gravity.
Yeah.
Because this is the part of the deep dive where I really had to stop and reread.
The non-propagation hypothesis.
The author claims that gravity does not travel.
Correct. And yes, it is the most controversial part of the model.
Controversial's putting it mildly. We're taught gravity travels at the speed of light. If the sun vanished, we wouldn't know for 8 minutes.
Right. We'd keep orbiting a ghost.
But this model says, what?
That we'd know instantly.
Theoretically, yes, the geometric adjustment is instantaneous.
Wait, hold on. That breaks everything. That sounds like magic. Nothing travels faster than light. That breaks causality. And this is where the nuance is absolutely critical. Buscemi isn't saying you can send a radio signal faster than light. He distinguishes between information and geometric synchronization.
Okay, help me out. What's the difference?
The source uses the elastic net analogy. Imagine a giant, tight net stretched across a room.
Okay.
If you pull one corner, does a wave have to travel inch by inch to the other corner for the tension to change?
I guess not. If it's tight enough, the whole thing adjusts pretty much at once.
It's a structural adjustment.
Hmm.
SGQM argues that because the Aetheron is a coherent lattice, when a massive object moves, the entire lattice realigns its geometry globally.
So it's not a particle flying from A to B.
It's the geometry itself pivoting. The shape of space changes instantly, even if the light from the event hasn't reached us yet.
Is there any actual evidence for this?
The source points to LIGO and Virgo, the gravitational wave detectors.
Right, the chirps from black hole collisions.
Standard physics explains the chirp, but SGQM predicts extra stuff. Post-merger echoes and polarization shifts.
Echoes, like a sound echo.
Kind of. Imagine ringing a massive church bell. After the main bong, there's a hum, right? A complex resonance as the metal settles. SGQM says that after two black holes merge, the Aetheron lattice should ring as it settles back into sync. Standard relativity doesn't really account for these echoes in the same way.
And have we seen them?
There are claims, hints of these echoes in the data, buried in the noise. If they're confirmed, it would be strong evidence for this ringing bell structure of space.
We'd be listening to the ringing of the 12th dimension. That's heavy. Okay, so we've covered black holes and gravity. What about dark matter? The stuff that's 85% of the universe, but we can't see it.
And again, it's a geometric answer. It's about looking in the wrong direction.
You're right.
Well, we have 12 dimensions, or R-axes. R1 through R4 correspond to normal matter. That's us.
We live in axes 1 through 4. Got it.
Then you have R5 through R8, the bosonic modes. The dark secret, according to Buscemi, is that dark matter isn't some new particle. It consists of dark harmonics spinning in those other axes, R5 through R8.
So it's matter that's just spinning the wrong way.
It's spinning orthogonally to light. Remember, light and matter are projections. If you have a stable rotation in the R5, R8 axes, it creates mass, it has gravity, but it is electromagnetically silent.
Silent. That's why it's invisible.
It doesn't interact with the axes that create photons, so it's invisible to our telescopes, but we feel its weight holding galaxies together. It's there, it has mass, but you can't shine a flashlight on it.
So it's not missing matter, it's hidden matter, hidden by geometry.
Precisely. And this geometric view also touches on something even more fundamental, the constants of nature.
Like the speed of light or the fine structure constant alpha. We're taught those are written in stone. Alpha is 1137. Everywhere, always.
That's the dogma, but SGQM challenges it. Remember our triangle. Alpha is the hypotenuse.
The long side, the synchronization factor.
Right. Now imagine that triangle is near a supermassive black hole. The space there is twisted, stretched. If the geometry twists, the shape of that triangle has to distort.
So the hypotenuse has to change.
Which means alpha has to change.
So the laws of physics aren't the same everywhere.
They might be flexible. SGQM predicts that if we look at light from distant quasars, we might see that alpha was slightly different in those high curvature environments long ago.
And if we prove that alpha varies, that rewrites the textbooks.
It would mean the constants of nature are actually variables dependent on the local geometry of the Aetheron.
This is a lot to take in. We started with a dinner plate and now the laws of physics are bending.
It is a lot, but it's a cohesive picture.
So let's bring it back home. We've had quite a journey. We started with a simple shadow on a wall, a lopsided plate, and we ended up with a 12-dimensional living geometry.
We moved from singularities, which are basically math errors, to inversions, which are gateways. We learned that gravity isn't a wave, it's the universe synchronizing its watch.
And for me, the biggest thing is still that idea of the shadow. If the plate of our universe really is tilted, as M87 might be suggesting, then what does that say about us?
It suggests that our 4D reality, everything we can touch and see and measure, is just a projection, a slice of something much bigger.
So what we see is mass and light and time.
Yeah.
It's just a shadow of a much larger 12-dimensional dance. We're only seeing a fraction of the picture.
And the source leaves us with this thought. The universe isn't made of isolated parts. It's not a collection of marbles in an empty box.
It's a single living geometry.
Every particle, every star, every person is connected through that Aetheron lattice.
It makes you look at the world differently. Next time you're walking down the street and see your own shadow on the pavement, ask yourself, what is the true shape of the thing casting it? And can you really see all its dimensions?
A question worth pondering.
Thanks for taking the deep dive with us.